Way written all over it. We got a puppet out here. Have you guys seen the puppet? Are you cold, forlorn, and hungry? Are there lots of things you lack? Is your life made up of misery? Yeah, yeah. And dump the bosses off your back. Come on up here, Tom. Are your clothes all torn and tattered? Are you living in a shack? Would you have your troubles scattered? Yeah, yeah. Dump the bosses off your back. Why'd you boom like ugly thunders? Bawling like a long-haired jack. Why don't you got poop like thunder?
They're still coming in. Make room. They're still coming in.
Bosses off your back. We're gonna have you guys move back, really. This is gonna be like Woodstock on the dock.
Up the stairs. Woo! Take the stairs. Take the stairs. It's all ours. It's the people's pier here.
That's Mr. Robbie Stearns from the State Labor Council, everybody. It's the State Labor Council here. All those agonies you suffer, you could end in one good whack. Ooh, why don't you bark like thunder? Yeah, yeah. And dump the bosses off your back. Ooh, why don't you bark like thunder? Yeah, yeah. And dump the bosses off your back. Why'd you dump that boss off your back? We're doing it today. That more Joe Miniace's gotta go away. That man can't hold us all hostage. All right. This is what democracy looks like. And this is what democracy sings like. And this is what democracy screams like. Who streets? The who streets? The who streets? The who streets? Oh, Bush on Bush. We got it here today. Yeah, Bush on Bush. We came all this way. Push on Bush. We're coming here to say that in 2004 we'll show them in the door. Yeah! Don't you feel bad for him, man? He picked a fight with the greatest union in the world.
You're seeing rank and filers and their friends and allies and community people rallied together today against corporate greed in America, against Bush intervention on behalf of the Pacific Maritime Association, which is made up of 82 shipping companies, 7 of which are American, the rest are foreign, So basically, the White House is threatening to impose Taft-Hartley against the ILWU, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. We're in our traditional 3-year bargaining cycle right now. We're asking for a maintenance contract, basically. They've come back and they've wanted to attack our medical benefits. They wanted to shove us all into HMOs, which everybody knows doesn't work now. They want to basically farm our jobs out and outsource our work. On top of that, they don't even want to accept our opinions on Homeland Security, on container safety and integrity. We put things on the table, and they say, no, there's no real threat. So, we're doing our bit, and in return for our efforts to negotiate a fair contract for our people, we've been called unpatriotic. Now, these are foreign shipping companies calling us unpatriotic. Go figure. It's morning in America.
The Longshore set the wage scale for Seattle, so if they start cutting the wages here, everybody else is going to feel it on down the chain.
We believe that collective bargaining is collective bargaining between the unions and the employers. This has nothing to do with government. They need to keep their hands out of it.
There's a thing called the West Coast Waterfront Coalition, and it's been made up of about 55 retailers, a shipping company, and the PMA, our employer. Joe Miniace is the head of the PMA, and he has been organizing this group. This group has become quite powerful. They've got a lot of money. It's the Walmarts, it's the Targets, it's the Nikes, it's the Home Depots, and I could go on and on. We know how Walmart treats their people. They want to play slave labor in the Orient and overseas, and semi-slave labor to their employees here.
Well, the issues of what's going on is a lot like what was happening in Germany in the 30s, actually. Bush is trying to bust this union, and he's threatening to send federal troops in to bust this union, which is unprecedented, basically, in decades and decades in this country. It's a real rightward turn. So I'm here as a union member of Communication Workers of America to support brothers and sisters in the longshoremen.
No soldiers.
The whole West Coast, I'm sure, has been gearing up for this. Labor in general has been taking a beating, and it's time somebody has to take a stand. We know our Boeing workers are coming up this year, the IAM. It's going to be tough, and I think the longshoremen are going to really have to battle hard, and we're here to support them in any way that we can. So we wish them the best of luck.
The Bush administration has dramatically tipped the balance of collective bargaining. How, you say? Secret meetings held at the White House with guess who? The Economic Advisor, Secretary of Defense, Homeland Security Advisor, Secretary of Labor, keep listening, West Coast Waterfront Coalition, the Pacific Maritime Association, and occasionally even Bush himself. Hey, wait a minute. They have secret meetings at the White House. Secret meetings at the White House with the Economic Advisor, Secretary of Defense, Homeland Security Advisor, Secretary of Labor, West Coast Waterfront Coalition, the PMA, and occasionally the man himself. So, is there someone missing in those meetings? Yeah! I believe so. Where was the International Longshoremen and Warehousemen's representatives? Well, it's strange. It's strange if good faith bargaining is your goal. It isn't strange if you want to bust a very strong and able union. This is not only a threat to the International Longshoremen's Union, this is also a threat to all working class people dependent on the union for assuring fair contracts in time of cohesive and colossal corporate greed.
I think that our federal government should stay out of the business of local unions and let them decide for themselves what's in their best interest.
Bush, go home and stay out of the ILW's business. You have no business in it. This is our freedom. This is our livelihood. So stay out, because the military wouldn't even know how to tie their shoes on these docks. Go home and stay out.
They've got us bound in. Any move we make, they're going to attack. So, you know, it is a lopsided deal, and they should stay out of this operation right here.
Well, I think we're pretty strong. We've got all the people with us.
There must be a point which labor holds the line and expectations for bargaining without interference by this government. So I say to you, brothers and sisters, we will and we must get the government and the special interest corporations out of our negotiations. Several years ago, it was rumored that Mr. Miniace, the chief executive officer of the PMA, called the Longshore Union rank and file nothing but a bunch of sheep. Well, Mr. Miniace, a bunch of sheep up here is called a herd, and this Puget Sound area herd has a couple things to tell you. Number one, most herds need a good sheep herder. Yes, sir. Mr. Miniace, fancy yourself one? Problem is, you don't have the best interest of these sheep in mind. In fact, Mr. Miniace, you're nothing but a wolf in sheep's clothing. And you ain't pulling the wool over this herd's eyes. We've decided, Mr. Miniace, that we're going to fight back because we ain't interested in getting clipped, and we sure the hell ain't interested in going to the slaughterhouse. So we all have one question to ask you here. So the only question we have for you, Mr. Miniace, is what the flock do you think about that?
The issues today obviously are an injury to one is an injury to all.
Well, labor and the progressive community are going to make WTO seem like a kiddie party if they try to put the troops on the darts.
We did it with Rainforest Action. We did it with the Pierce County Labor Council and the King County Labor Council and the Washington State Labor Council. There's lots of activists out there right now with these cards in their hands.
We got a man in the White House who was born with the silver spoon. He doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue of what it is to go out and put in an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. And that's the truth, and every one of us knows that. He got his power from his daddy. We know that he's a businessman only because all those other rich businessmen kept bailing him out because he couldn't even run a business on his own. And now he's the president, and he's going to tell us how we should run collective bargaining. Well, the Longshore workers, they fought long and hard for family wage jobs so their families can live a decent life, so their kids can go to college and they can retire with dignity. That stuff wasn't handed to them on a platter like it was for George W. Folks worked for that. They've made a proposal in their contract that offers technological flexibility, but also ensures that those who remain on the job don't suffer a decline in their standard of living. George W. Bush doesn't know from a decline in his standard of living. All he knows is he's been going up and up and up. Well, I tell you, sisters and brothers, we're about to bring him down, down, down.
Well, one of the things that I've heard of late is that us longshoremen are maybe open to terrorism or to evade the terrorists, and I just want it to be well known that I'm a Vietnam-era veteran and I served in combat in Vietnam. And there's nothing that's more important to me or my family than to have a vision that this country is supposed to stand for and that we trust in our political leadership to open that vision and to grow and to concentrate on the future and creativity, not to turn around and in some guise of Homeland Security thwart labor. I hope they don't go there, because if they do, there's a lot of people that have just about had enough.
This is something that quite possibly could make or break the labor movement, and that this is kind of like PATCO, the flight traffic controllers in the 80s, where they went on strike in defiance of Reagan, and Reagan locked him out and fired him and used the military to land the planes. And that, so this is basically, it's about unions' ability to strike and the unions' ability to have a power over the economy, and so that they can strike and shut down the economy and get their demands heard and met. And I think that the unions have to come out fighting, and that if Bush does lock them out and try to bring the army onto the ports, there should just be a nationwide general strike, and that we'll break the army, we'll break Bush. That Bush, it's not going to be the other way around. Bush is not going to break us.
And we're not going to stop. That's all I got to say.
I agree with her.
The first document for this country was started out, "We the people," and you are the people out here. Yes. And we are the people that did go fight in the Civil War, and the First World War, and the Second World War, and the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, and there's blood every place you look, and we're the people that gave that blood.
That's right! That's right!
Yes, we're the people. And now, they're throwing us out, all of us. And this is a fight that started back in the 20s and 30s. The Wobblies were on these very streets. And they went to Everett and got ambushed. And now what we have to do is we have to come back together as the working people of the United States and stop what's going on in Washington, D.C. because those people, they've already proved themselves with Enron and things like that. And they'll keep on that path unless we stop them. And we're the people that will stop them.
One of our problems is the fact that we're not getting any support in the legislature either, although they have claimed to support us. You know, they're passing these 2:30 in the morning bills, and we're not affected by them until the sun comes up, and then when it does, it's too late to do anything about them. And it's just propagating this police state that this country is turning into.
You know, this is Seattle. This is the home of the WTO. We know how to put people in the streets. We know how to stop things. We know how to go to jail, and by God, George W. Bush, you hear me? You mess with these longshore workers, and we will fill these streets, and we will go to jail, and we will fight until we win. Is that right? Is that right? Is that right?
Let me hear ya. We're going to fight back, George Bush. Are we going to win? I have a question. We have 150,000 union members in King County and their families. I think practically everyone's here. I think we got a quorum tonight. My question is, how many of you are Longshore members? Let me hear from you. How many of you are allies, friends, supporters who will fight for the Longshore? Longshore members? Allies? Members? Allies? All right. This morning at 11 o'clock today, we had a precedent-setting press conference held in Ron Sims, County Executive of King County, where he convened the media together with
Mayor Greg Nichols, the chair of the King County Council, Cynthia Sullivan, the president of the City Council, Peter Steinbrook, and they told the president and they told the media, Bush, stay out of our town. Do not intervene in these talks. Cynthia Sullivan, the chair of the King County Council, said, in Longshore, you tell me if this is right. No one is better qualified to spot suspicious activity and to guarantee the safety of those zones than the longshoremen who have walked and worked those docks every day for years. Is she right? Yeah! Will you keep us safe? Yeah! The Teamsters, the sailors, the building trades, the longshore, all the workers, brothers and sisters on the waterfront, will you keep us safe? Yeah! Ron Sims, county executive, added, I can't do it like Ron, but I'll try. It is unconscionable that the administration is threatening military intervention at the port in our community. We are standing up today for the civil rights of American workers and their hard-earned right to collective bargaining without outside interference. Is he right? Yeah! Now the message to George Bush. We know, George Bush, that your threatened intervention is really a smokescreen to take our minds off the real threats. Your tax cut, that's a tax cut for the wealthy, to take the money out of funding the social programs for those in need, threatens our economic security. Your refusal to provide leadership towards a serious prescription drug plan for our retirees and seniors threatens our health security. You're standing by while CEO profiteers run off with tens of millions of dollars as they rip off our retirements of working families, threatens our retirement security. Your fast-track scheme designed to ram through trade policies in an undemocratic way to lower environmental and labor standards across the globe threatens our standards for labor and the environment. And your attack on basic civil rights protections in the name of the war on terrorism threatens our civil security. But we in labor have a special target on our back. When George Bush came to office, one of the first executive orders he signed was the executive order that eliminated project labor agreements that give our communities the ability to set labor standards on jobs with federal dollars. That was his first attack. Then he said Department of Justice workers couldn't belong to their union. That was his second attack. Last week he threatened to veto legislation that will provide the 170,000 prospective Homeland Security Agency workers the right to collective bargaining and civil protections. And now they're threatening to put federal troops in our cranes. Are we going to stand for it, brothers and sisters? No! Who's the patriots? Are we the patriots? We are! We, patriots, exercise our rights to assemble peaceably. We're doing that right now. Yes. We defend the rights of others. And patriotism is when we exercise our rights to strike and collectively bargain, if necessary, to protect our families, our jobs, and our communities. But I just learned two sinister things this morning. These have been rumors that have been running around, and now they are confirmed. The Bush administration has at one point staged federal troops on the ready to get into these cranes in the event that the talks broke down. If they're on the ready, are we on the ready? The second thing is, we now know the Bush administration has had talks with the PMA, with the West Coast Waterfront Coalition, and they have discussed a lockout as a pretext to send in the troops. Imagine the cynicism and corruption to set up a situation that they're saying is the travesty if the docks shut down just to send in the troops. That's the cynicism of this Bush administration. For brothers and sisters, we are the patriots. Are we going to fight for our right to strike? Are we right to defend the ILWU?
The main reason I'm here is I was a charter member of PATCO, and I watched the government bring in the military and ruin one local, one union, and I just don't want to see it done again. And that's why I'm here.
Unfortunately for us in the ILWU and in organized labor, one day we celebrate, the next day we march. June 22nd, I received a call from our international president, James Spinoza. He said, you need to get to Washington, D.C. I jumped on the plane immediately. When we had got there, the administration was ready to invoke Taft-Hartley. But I want you to know something. Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters went to the White House on our behalf. Jimmy Hoffa came out very strong as a labor leader and told George W. Bush, there will be a repercussion if you get involved in these negotiations. Congressional elections are coming up this fall. He said, labor will come out so strong like you've never seen before.
That's right. That's right.
Senators Kennedy, Daschle, they gave us an assignment. They said, you need to get all the senators from the West Coast. We got them all. The first 2 senators from Hawaii, Inouye, Nakaka, Ron Wyden from Oregon, Patty Murray, Maria Cantwell. I was very proud. They understand. They understand that the ILWU has had 70 years of collective bargaining. We have always been here to give our employers a fair fight or get one from them. And for the first time in history, they decided Joe Miniace does not want to negotiate in San Francisco. The negotiations have been taking place back in Washington, D.C. He feels that he can legislate instead of negotiate, and in the media. It was back there then that we were told by the congressional people, George Miller from California, very strong for labor. Within one day, we were able to get 46 congressional members to sign on. If we'd have had a week, we probably could have got over 200 members to sign on. They understood our calls. They understand the calls of working people. One of the things that Miniace did, you guys all remember Leon Panetta, who was the chief of staff for Bill Clinton. He went out and hired Leon Panetta to lobby against the ILWU. The wages of sin, brothers and sisters, are rising every day. But I'd like to say one other thing. As we sit here today and we talk, we need to remember one thing, and we don't talk about it much. We all need a wake-up call. 20 years ago today, 1982, this nation, labor, everybody stood by as we watched President Reagan fire those air traffic controllers, and we did nothing. Albert Einstein said this. He said, those that commit evil are one thing, but he said those that stand by and tolerate evil are worse. And I hope that we will remember, because I had only been in the union 2 years then. We let those guys down. And you know what? As we all are standing here today, history's in the making.
That's right. That's right.
We're on the verge of history. As I was coming up here in my car, I was thinking, I said to myself, I said, you can't call on Harry Bridges. You can't call on the old timers, because they're all gone now. I said, you can't call on Dad and Mom now. But you got to trust that instinct inside of you as a person and everything that you have learned as a trade unionist. And that's what's important. I put all my faith in God and in the labor movement. I think Harry Bridges said it best. He said that I don't know any other place than to put my faith than in labor. Then where else is there to put it?
That's right. That's right.
We have a responsibility. You know, being a part of organized labor, this is a culture. This is a culture. Organized labor, we came from nothing, from the ashes, and have risen. And now we need to speak very loudly. And today, when we go home, it doesn't stop. These negotiations are tough, but I know that organized labor is going to come through. And no matter what happens, we have to stand tall, because they're going to take us on. George W. Bush is like Ronald Reagan. They're here. And as we have a lot of friends, but organized labor has a lot of enemies. So let's unite, let's stay focused, but we have a lot of work. And as soon as we win this victory, we have to go back into training, because from now on, a lot of stuff will happen as far as legislation and in the media. And we no longer, as a people, can stand up and be silent.
It's all about solidarity. We all got to stick together.
We're all in it together. We lose it, we stick together, or we lose it all.
I hope labor bites George Bush in the ass.
Hey, we're down here today to stand up with the longshoremen against the government who's getting out of control. We don't need anybody coming in with troops trying to do our work. We need higher wages so we can bring this economy out of a slump. And we're tired of being pushed around. We're taking a stand. 40 guys took 3 hours without pay. It's pushing $100 to come down here. That's how strongly they feel about this. It's time for people to get together against an oppressive government.
We ain't gonna take the streets today, but by God, if we gotta come back here, we're gonna take the streets and we ain't gonna give them up. Is that right?
George Bush, stay out of our negotiations.
Just stay the hell out of our negotiations. Leave it to us. We'll take care of ourselves.
George Bush needs to stay out of it.
I'm a union member and have been for over 25 years. And if we all don't stick together, then Bush is going to bust us.
Okay, I've been a longshoreman since 1963. And I was here during the 1971 strike. And it was not a fun time for me or the rest of the guys that were here. Our wives and our families, our parents, our kids, they all paid a price for that strike. But when I look back, it was probably the most important era of my work life.
All I want is for Joe Miniace to come out and negotiate like a man instead of trying to stall and hoping for government intervention. And I think the message here today with all you people here, he's going to get that message. Thank you.
Like you open up the books for Enron and Tyco and WorldCom, you'll see that the workers are not getting the fair share. Workers are not getting the training. You know, we can't let it go down to saying, oh, well, we need to economize. Next thing you know, we're going to have below livable wage jobs, below minimum wage jobs, all the way along the transportation network. You know, when you look at the Longshore, it is your first line of defense on livable wage jobs in the United States, and it needs to stay.
You know, for over 3 decades, we successfully negotiated our own contracts. We had one minor setback. I don't think now we need a threat of military intervention or anything else from the Bush administration to get us to get to the table any quicker. Joe Miniace is the one down there that doesn't want to negotiate. All of our delegates come back and they tell us the same story. We're there to negotiate and they're there to take back. We're not going to go for that, no matter how small the locals are, from Bellingham right on down to San Diego. We're going to stick together, united united we stand, together we fall, and if we're going, we're all going together.
I tell you, you look at the Enrons, you look at the WorldComs, you look at these people, goddammit, they're the ones that are the terrorists, they're the ones that are bringing our economy down. It isn't the ILWU.
You know, we're up for a fight, but it's not a fight we can't handle. I was part of the group that went to D.C. that got to hear from the Bush administration about Taft-Hartley. If they want to start the fight, you all will finish it, that's for sure.
This union is strong enough that I think we're going to beat Bush. I do believe we're going to beat him. I think he's all bull.
And I tell you right now, Mr. President, you better be listening. You better be listening, because the people are starting to organize, and the people will never be defeated.
This struggle is what the labor movement is all about. Decent wages, health care for you and your family, a retirement so you can retire with dignity, safety and health on the job,
And last but not least, respect from our employers. That's what this labor movement is all about. Now, President Bush has said he's thinking about bringing the military in. But we all know who his friends are. Corporate America. We've seen what's happened over the last several months. The corporate greed and corruption in this country and what it's done to many working Americans. Tens of thousands have lost their jobs, have lost their retirements. And I want to give you two figures so you understand what's been going on in this country in the last decade. In the last decade, when you and I, on the average, our wages went up 36%. CEOs, on the average, went up 340%. Now you want to talk about really greed. Of all these companies that have gone under or now in bankruptcy, of the 25 top CEOs and CFOs, they took in stock options and cashed them in at $3.3 billion. That's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to us, and it's a disgrace to this country. Let me just say this to conclude, that you have our support, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that you get what you need in this contract. And if they bring the military in, we're going to fight them. And this president better understand, if he's going to declare war on two fronts, he's going to lose the war that he conducts on the American worker.
I brought a couple of people here that this fight is all about our future. This is our fight. Today it is our future. A fight is brewing here on the docks, and we will win this fight. No National Guard needed for negotiations. Mr. Bush, hear it. Butt out Bush, let's hear it. Butt out Bush. 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 Butt out.
I was hired, as Robbie said, with 12 other courageous women in 1980 to be the first women to work on the Seattle waterfront. It was an adjustment for all of us. I know, there's my speech, see. And, you know, but in the ensuing years, we all learned that in fact, women and men really want the same thing in life. And that is a decent living, a decent job. And not only that, a life that has some dignity. So that was a valuable lesson, and that was how we ultimately all came together. I grew up on stories about the waterfront and about the struggles to form unions. And so when I was hired in 1980, I was really proud to be part of that tradition. As time went on, I became proud to be part of something that was even bigger, that was really the future. Because without unions like the ILWU and unions all over this country and all over this world, democracy has no chance of surviving. These are people's organizations where people vote, and through them, people have a voice to determine what their lives are like. So sitting across a negotiating table with representatives of global retailers and the Bush administration with his guns, you know, it's really authoritarianism versus democracy. And that's why I am really proud to be part of this struggle. And one thing that I have learned since being a woman on the waterfront is how to fight. And let me tell you, Bush has got a fight on his hands. Thank you.
My dad was 40 years. My grandfather was 39.
And so they must have seen the strikes that have happened in the past.
Oh yeah.
Now it's your generation's time to stand strong, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got to fight for the next generation.
It's part of history. Here you are, living right through it.
Yep.
What do you think if the government sends the troops in?
That they're gonna fight just like they did on Bloody Thursday a long time ago. Fight
Like my dad, my grandpa.
yeah, my grandpa, just like him.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that rhythm of highway, I saw above me that in the skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. Oh, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This is an old Woody Guthrie tune. I'm telling you, this man was way ahead of his time. Went to Seattle to join in that battle. We thought that we should go protest at WTO, and in the shadow of the needle, I found my people. This land was made for you and me. Workers and tree huggers coming together with the Teamsters and the Turtles, despite the nasty weather. Just to prove to this world we can be a little better. And this land was made for you and me. Sing with me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California. Oh yeah. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf water. This land was made for you and me. Well, if this is your land, I wish you'd show it. Or take that BS and kindly stow it. Better yet, let's get together. We can overthrow it. And this land could be for you and me. Everybody, this land is your land. This land is my land. From California from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me. Wait a minute, I gotta do something here. I gotta do something. I can't control myself, people. I'm telling you. Bush on Bush. It's time to say today. Come on, help me. Bush on Bush. We're starting it today. Yeah, Bush on Bush. And now you came here to say that in 2004 we'll show the man the door. All right.
On September 18th, longshoremen in Seattle continued their contract battle, holding rallies outside the headquarters of Stevedoring Services of America.
Well, the rallies are coast-wide rallies, not only in Seattle, it's also in Long Beach, California, and in Oakland, California, and Seattle. Those are main places with SSA.
After Labor Day, shortly after Labor Day, we put the maintenance of benefits to bed. Of course, that also has to come back to the membership, but it was agreeable to our negotiating committee. And then we wanted to move on, and we started moving on into technology, and we were getting nowhere again in technology. And now I think that we're back to the table and we're talking, but SSA is stalling things. Seems that it gets moving along, and then SSA will stall.
We're willing to deal with technology. We just don't want our jobs outsourced.
Yeah, I was just informed that Jobs for Justice passed out 150 whistles. Why don't we give SSA about 4 blasts on the whistle? I'll go 1, 2, 3, and give us a long blast. I'll do it 4 times. 1, whistle on SSA. 2, 3.
An unusual bit of solidarity at the Longshoremen's rally was the appearance of members from the Seattle Opera.
One of the things that was really nice for us to see was the Seattle Opera sent some of their people. They're members of the AFL-CIO, and they sang a song with our lyrics against SSA, and that was something that started the rally off, and we really appreciated their help, as all the other unions.
These boards are your boards. These boards are our boards. From San Diego to Fort Bellingham. Yeah.
The threat of strike or lockout on the docks continues. Looming large over negotiations is the Bush administration's threat to bring federal troops onto the docks to unload cargo in the event of a strike or lockout. With the President of the United States in their pocket, shipping companies, most of whom are foreign, are openly threatening to lock the longshoremen out in an attempt to bully them into submission. Sending troops onto the docks could easily backfire on the shipping companies and on President Bush. The situation would be highly politicized just before fall elections, allowing longshoremen to put pressure on the shipping companies by putting pressure on Bush at a time when he is extended by war talk and impending elections. Such a confrontation could easily be the jolt that could turn the House of Bush into a house of cards. Longshoremen, by fighting for their jobs and contract, could end up saving America. Meanwhile, some Everett longshoremen took the time to practice a bit of solidarity of their own. Striking teachers in the Snohomish School District were given a boost when longshoremen from the Everett local showed up at the teachers' picket line. Teachers in Snohomish School District have been on strike since September 3rd, when district negotiators failed to meet teacher demands for competitive pay, health care, and working conditions. The day before the longshoremen showed up, district administrators left the bargaining table after only 10 minutes of talks. Teachers from Cascade High School in Everett, who have settled their own contract, brought pizza to their Snohomish brothers and sisters on the picket line. Ruth Hunter, an intern in the English and History departments at Cascade High School, interviewed longshoremen and teachers from Snohomish, as well as the Everett Education Association, who was on the line for the Snohomish teachers. Mike Wilson, History Department chairman at Cascade High School, organized the pizza delivery and ran the camera for Pepper Spray Productions. Union solidarity is alive and well in the Northwest. As teachers continue to walk their picket lines and storms brew on the docks, much more solidarity is needed. Pepper Spray will continue to cover these and other labor stories. Meanwhile, the Seattle Independent Media Center is gearing up to offer media classes for union members who want to learn the fine art of telling their own stories. Stay tuned for more information at a future date. The docks sit idle. Shipping containers are stacking up. Representing shipping companies, the PMA assembled a whole coalition against the longshoremen. President Bush seemed positively eager to send troops onto the docks.
They underestimated the ILWU. Miniace underestimated that. He was counting on the federal government stepping in our negotiations. What happened is we didn't react the way they thought we might. And we fooled them. We knew they were negotiating differently than they had in the past. And we recognized that. We've bought some time.
When the coalitions were built and the friendly politicians brought on board, the union started applying the heat in a time and place of its own choosing.
What happened, we had all our membership come in the morning. We wanted to talk to them about other things. And we had a meeting.
Joe Miniace, head of the PMA, said he wouldn't pay workers to strike and locked them out. Now, a week into the lockout, industry is starting to react with alarm as their shipments can't get through.
Now, there's a lot of containers out there. There's a lot of containers that are reefers that are plugged in.
2 ships headed north to Canada with a plan to offload in Vancouver and bring the cargo into the U.S. on the train. But Canadian dock workers refused to handle the cargo, and the port decided to only serve their regular customers, so the ships had to return to Seattle, still loaded.
And we really appreciated their help, as all the other unions.
The ILWU understands the power that comes through unity, and it is rumored that the waterfront solidarity shown by the Canadian dock workers is only a taste of what the union has lined up. Meanwhile, union allies like Jobs with Justice have opened up a completely different front. They have been leafleting in front of the retail stores of select members of the Waterfront Coalition, trying to destroy the unity of the bosses. Payless has already cried uncle and has written a letter withdrawing from the Waterfront Coalition. Certain members of the crumbling coalition are now trying to make side deals with the longshoremen in an effort to get their particular cargo unloaded. President Bush faces an exquisite dilemma. If he invokes Taft-Hartley, he'll have to invoke it against the PMA instead of the workers. This has never been done in the history of the Taft-Hartley law.
And we're willing to work, and we're ready to work. We're locked out. The employer will not let us work. This is not a strike. We didn't go out. The employers kicked us out of their facility and locked the door. I want the people in King County, the people in Seattle, the people around the state, the apple growers, the truck drivers, I want everybody to know that. It isn't us.
If they invoke Taft-Hartley, it will be to force Joe Miniace to do what he said he wouldn't, which is to pay longshoremen to strike. Because if longshoremen follow safety rules and this slows down the pace of the docks, it is the same thing as striking in his mind.
Let me tell you something. 6,719 brothers and sisters were injured on the waterfront in the last 3 years. 6,719. We don't want 6,719 employees injured. We want safety. Safety. And we want to work safe. Listen to this. Five fellow brothers in the last 3 years have given their life on the job up and down the coast. We feel 5 SSA is 5 too many.
It is a dangerous occupation, and safety rules should be respected. Joe Miniace and the PMA are right back where they started. This was supposed to be just a maintenance contract, but with the president in their pocket, the PMA turned it into a major union-busting effort. Longshoremen did not ask for this fight, but they have so far proven themselves to be good tacticians. The PMA is in a trap of their own making, and they're hoping that President Bush will help them out. If he invokes Taft-Hartley, the next phase of the struggle will increasingly depend on the unity and creative tactics by the union members and their many allies. We asked Del Bates what supporters could do.
We've got pickets up and down the waterfront, okay? One thing, we could always use a little physical help. And I know some people, I have calls from different unions and other people that aren't in the union that are opposed to some of the things that are going on that have said, can I join your picket line? And you can come down and stand with us, introduce yourself when you come to the picket line, act appropriately. If you do that, we do that. We don't want any violence, that type of thing. Honk when you drive by a picket line. It makes the guys feel good, makes them know that somebody's on their side. I know I always do that, and they appreciate it on the other side. Stop and ask what it's about. What's this picket line about? And if you're a union brother and sister, you know you don't cross it.